Yeah.
Hello, welcome, everyone. We are here with American Families United and Mixed Status Families Facebook group leader, Jessie Alacorn and Callie Pelegro. My name is Araceli Esparza, and I am the founder of Midwest Mujeres. That is the channel you are watching right now. I'm also I don't know if I want to, I am one of the co-leaders of the Latinas Empowerment Jefa group that we have here on Facebook. And we're also streaming in there today. And so Jessie and I have been talking for a while, and we're going to let people, we already got some people popping on here. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. This is exciting. I didn't expect at 8:00 at night people would be like tuning in, but some people were even messaging me like, "Where are you guys? Right here. Sorry for starting late." And please feel free. Feel free to put in the comments in there too, like any questions that you might have for us, or inbox me. For those folks that know me, just go ahead and inbox me if you have questions for our panelists here. Today we're going to be talking about mixed status families, and I know a lot of you are like, what does that mean even? We're going to talk about all that. We're going to unpack what that means and why you as American born citizens need to be concerned about mixed status families and what that means to us as well, to our economy, to everything in our livelihoods, everything from getting your food on your table. Mixed status families have a lot to deal with, a lot of those things that we go through everyday life. So again, my name is Araceli Esparza. I am your host today in Midwest Mujeres. I'm the founder of Midwest Mujeres. We are here to breaking isolation of Latinas living in the Midwest. What does that mean? We help with networking opportunities, professional growth and development opportunities. We help you grow your platform. We give you space on our platform, just like we are today with American Families United and Mixed Status Families Leaders. Here, what else do we do? Oh my gosh, we connect you all. We connect hearts. We curate this beautiful content so that we can feel empowered in our social justice movements that we are a part of, and get to know people in the neighborhood. Jessie, I know you're a neighborhood. You're on the and Jessie has been starting. I mean, yeah, I knew Jessie was like in the beginning of the pandemic. If you wanted to know where to get some food, you would be on Jessie's page. Because she was telling us about all these places of where to get resources, where to get disinfectant wipes. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
And you were teaching us how to make them at home. You were one of the first people popping that stuff. So I remember all those early days in the 2020 times.
Yeah.
And so if you have questions for us, we're going to unpack all these terms: mixed status families, immigration laws. That's what we're talking about. And I just want to say, somebody, Facebook was kind of like acting funny with this one, because of the American flag. That's your banner. It was not almost liking it. Posting on this, I'm sure you have experienced some of that censorship. So even if you don't catch us right now live, feel free to go on these ladies' Facebook groups as well and join them. Learn about the challenges and struggles of mixed status families. Well, without further ado, I have Callie Pelego. It's just going to be hard, Callie. But Callie is the vice president with American Families United since 2013. She is a crime prevention specialist and holds an MA in community ministry leadership. Thank you, Callie, for joining us. I also am happy to introduce Jessie Alacorn. She was born in the U.S. She's a former mixed status family, local activist here in Madison, Wisconsin, married to a formerly undocumented immigrant. She lives here in Wisconsin with 4 of her 6 children, 2 of who are also immigrants as well. So when we're talking about mixed status families, we are in these mixed status families.
Mm-hmm.
So both as our children, as our partners, perhaps even ourselves in some of these incidences. So what is mixed status family?
So mixed status
family, not a status on Facebook.
Yeah, it is not. Mixed status families is defined as a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident married to an ITIN holder.
Okay. So someone that comes to this, it could be somebody that's here legally though too, right?
Correct.
Not necessarily. I think the misnomer here is is it not?
Well, it's a big misconception that ITIN
Yeah.
holders are undocumented, and that's not true. We have a lot of U.S. citizens who live abroad, who are married to foreign nationals, who are required to file taxes.
Okay.
And their spouses then obtain the ITIN numbers also so that they're able to file taxes. ITIN holders can also be somebody whose social security number was that somebody committed ID theft and stole a social security number, and the person then chooses to use an ITIN number instead of their social security number to regain their identity back. We found when mixed status families started that we had a few families who that's how they got stuck in this.
Interesting.
Is that they're a U.S. citizen and then their spouse had identity theft and filed their taxes with an ITIN number.
Okay. So there's many reasons why we can have an ITIN number. It's not necessarily that we're undocumented in this country, but for most of, we're talking about like 80% of the cases most likely are of that situation.
Oh, I would say even more than that. I'd probably go 95% are U.S. citizens married to a foreign national that holds an ITIN number.
Okay. But that person themselves may or may not be undocumented. They might have visas, etc. Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Callie, how does your organization, what is the state of affairs? I mean, you are working for one of the largest organizations, American Families United. Thank you so much for being part of this live today, Callie. Being part of an organization that does so much work regarding mixed status families, what are you guys focusing right now on? What is the most precedent?
So just kind of to lay a foundation before I focus on what we're doing right now is American Families United as an organization, who our members are U.S. citizens that are that half of a mixed status couple. So the foreign national that we're married to, our members are married to, typically are undocumented. So, or have had unlawful presence in the United States, whether or not they live here now. And so that's who we're married to, and that is who we are. We're citizens. And we struggle with the legal immigration process. So there is a pathway for us as citizens that are married. We can file an I-130, which is like initiates this process to petition for our spouse to become a permanent resident. But within that pathway, what we experience, it makes us kind of sets us apart as far as like a community of within the immigration, is that our spouses are found inadmissible for a lot of reasons. But the two really largest reasons are for a multiple entry without inspection is what it's called, but it's basically coming into the country without permission more than one time. So going back and forth across the border. We have a lot of sympathetic cases of people having done that because they've gone back to their home country to visit a dying relative, and that's what brought them back. But their life is here, and so they've come back to the USA after having gone back to their country. And then we have another large category of people who are impacted by an inadmissibility, which is for having claimed U.S. citizenship falsely. Obviously, they're not U.S. citizens. They make a claim to be U.S. citizens, or in lots of cases that I've heard of our members' spouses, that somebody has made that claim for them, and even when they're minors. So people who would otherwise qualify for DACA are excluded from that community of benefit, and also, from being able to adjust to legal status through marriage to U.S. citizen because of a false claim to citizenship. So the punishment for these two inadmissibilities is for the multiple entry, we call them an inadmissibility in short is bar. Okay, so you'll hear lots of like the 3 and 10-year bars when you're talking about immigration. So 3 and 10-year bars is another topic. Our spouses bars are much more extreme, and there's no waivers available. A waiver would be like asking for permission or for what's that word, for forgiveness
El
for
perdón.
that violation.
Yes, the big perdón.
Yes,
now,
exactly.
I don't even think they do that. Do they still do that?
Yeah.
For unlawful presence, yes. But when it is the inadmissibility is one of these other two categories that I mentioned. For the multiple entry bar, you have to the immigrant has to be outside the U.S. for 10 years before they can reapply.
Right.
So when they're already married to a U.S. citizen and they've had children, we're talking about a long-term family separation, maintaining 2 households in 2 different countries. You know, the financial burden, the burden of children growing up in a one-parent household. So there's lots of social impacts and so many impacts of that. Or, you know, the family will, the citizen side of the family, the spouse and children will join the immigrant spouse in their home country for those 10 years and live outside of the U.S. The same is true for the false claim bar, except for the fact that with a false claim bar, there's never a possibility to apply for a waiver or reapply or appeal a decision. It's just that's a decision and that's final forever. So necessarily, in order for a family to stay together, that means that, you know, the citizen members of that family have to leave the USA. So that's the problem. The American Families United works to move legislation in Washington, D.C. at the federal level to fix these gaps within the legal immigration process. So we have a bill. It's actually called the American Families United Act. And it's been, our bill has been introduced in every Congress since 2013. So we're on our 5th iteration right now. And actually, we are having a lot more momentum. We're getting a lot more co-sponsors. There's a lot of more community rallying of like people who are impacted by these laws. And so you know, there's just momentum building, and it's kind of we say it to each other all the time in the leadership that we just really feel like this is our moment. Kind of hesitate to get too excited, you know, because it can be that letdown. But
are you expecting for this bill and this legislation? I mean, is it very promising? Are you?
Well, okay. So what it does, first of all, what it does is it introduces the ability to apply for a waiver in these cases where there is not one already. So, you know, it's not eliminating the bars, which is a popular idea among progressive Democrats, but it is like a poison pill for Republicans. So we said, all right, we're not going to say get away with the bars, do away with the bars, but we will introduce this waiver that's easier to obtain. So the standard is lowered. And there's a judge involved. So a judge can look at, so like, you know, my husband and I will take our case into this courtroom. A judge will look at all of our, what's called equities, or like the good things about our life, how we contribute to society, and weigh those things against his violation. And, you know, if in the end it comes out that it's, the judge determines that my husband should be allowed to live with me, a citizen, and our citizen children in the USA, then that will be the judge's decision, instead of, you know, some rubric that like an agent at a consulate decides without any discretion involved at all. So I don't know how to answer if it's promising or not, because there's this tension when you deal with politics and politicians about understanding or being able to discern when an office answers you back about like, will you be a co-sponsor or will you be our champion? You know, that's always the question that we're asking. And really having a like the savvy to understand what their words mean that they give back to us. It's very easy to like, if you take it just at the surface, it's like, oh my gosh, it sounds like they're really with us. But you know, actions speak louder than words. And so we're confused all the time because an office is very positive with how they talk with us, but then they don't translate that into co-sponsorship or being a champion. Then, you know, like, okay, something's off, and you have to kind of start to think about the messages that they're giving you through a different filter or a lens of more experience doing this, you know, and just understanding what they're like, reading between the lines, that type of thing.
Well, so they're just being courteous versus true to their words. I mean, it's like some weird Southern thing or something. You just no.
Yeah.
You got to meet them with a little bit of the other thing. Why is this important though? I mean, my channel and the work that we do, you know, with the Latino community. Why should a Latino born in the U.S., parents were born in the U.S., second generation, third generation, why should they care about mixed status families and the way they're treated? How does that impact their lives? And Jesse or Kelly, I don't know if that. I mean, I know you both are white women, and it would be, but and you aren't Latinos to speak about that. But even if they were, just say, or maybe they're not. Like, there's other white women in the world. Why? And maybe let's take that part out, right? But why should other women, period, okay, care about mixed status families? It's not my thing. My husband's not immigrant. My parents weren't immigrants.
Mom.
Why should I care?
I think, or Jesse, do you want to? Okay, I think that
Mommy, where's my?
What I would say to that is, you never know who your loved ones are gonna fall in love with, and that's kind of just my simple answer. And you know, my parents are not immigrants. You know, growing up, I dated non-immigrants. You know, and I ended up falling in love with an immigrant, and lot of the reasons why I love my husband so much has to do with his journey of immigration, and you know, certain things that I find attractive about his character are related to his being an immigrant in that life experience. And so anyway, you know, my parents never would have thought that would have been my life for me, and now that it is my life, they're very involved because it impacts their daughter. It also impacts their grandchild, you know, grandchildren.
Right. So, I mean, but say that person never does fall in love with somebody. You know, you're assuming, I mean, I'm trying to play devil's advocate and assuming this person does not have a relationship with anybody. I want to know why they should care, because oftentimes I think that we just are like, that's their problem. Well, I'm not going to fall in love with somebody like that, or I didn't. So why should I care? And I think that may be the pressure that you're finding with these representatives, that they're just like, none of my constituents are married to immigrants. Most of my constituents are white, and they're okay. We were all born here. That's your problem, not mine. What's up, Jesse?
So I can actually help with that. So what we're finding with mixed status families is, even though the immigrant is married to a U.S. citizen, there's automatically this assumption that the immigrant gets their papers. Marry a U.S. citizen, you get your papers.
Yeah.
That's not true. It is a very long, it is a very stressful process. We pay a lot of money. My family, just for my husband, we paid just under $20,000. Now think about how much money we pumped into the economy, and I'm just one family who did that. Right? $20,000 between attorney's fees, application fees, the time we have to take off from work. We also
airplane tickets.
Well, and the other thing, our spouses, they are the construction workers. They're the roofers. They're the restaurant workers. They're the ones who are essential workers that keep our economy going right now. So what do other people need to worry about? 5.5 million mixed status families, right? Our spouses are undocumented. They are the employees. They are the 5.5 million of the 11.1 million undocumented immigrants in this country. right?
Right.
And if our spouses get sent back to their home countries on life bars, now you're sending 5.5 million U.S. citizens out of this country with their spouses. That's an economical pack.
And
Then their kids have to go with them. There's 16.6 million U.S. citizens who are part of mixed status families.
True.
You send all of our spouses out of the country and 16.6 million people, that's a lot. That's a huge economical impact.
That is. No, I completely agree. I'm gonna give you a hot minute. Jesse,
Yeah, I gotta take a second. My husband is supposed to be watching our little girl right now, but that is not happening. So I'm gonna take myself off the camera for just
okay.
yeah.
Yes.
So,
That's what's
definitely
up. I
everything
mean, we're
Jesse
dealing
said,
with a lot. I get the economic. So for those people who could not hear Jesse, she was talking about the economic impact of the partner who is undocumented, and it could be the wife, it could be it could be the wife, it could be the husband, either one, and the economic backbone of that family, or sustaining whatever that you want to see it, the 50% of that person leaving, of that economic household leaving and having to be deported. We're losing out. And it's also kind of like, it's also this crazy assumption that naturalization happens immediately after
Right.
marriage. That naturalization took for us like close to 10 years. And like I was telling you, Callie, before that, like we lost papers because of the robbery and the assault. We had to start all over again. And that's just, that's the story of a lot of mixed families. For whatever reasons, you lose paperwork. You have to start all over.
Yep, we went through that as well. We lost, actually something got lost in the mail, and we were forced to start over as well, and pay all the fees again and do all the stuff again, and it was very stressful. But we
lost in the mail. Can you imagine? Like at the end, did you ever think that naturalization would come down to your postman? Like really? I did not think of it that way. The way it comes off as a very Hollywood, like, ooh, these lights, and it's like automatic. The wedding happens, and then like, I don't know, there's like some justice at the end. No, it's not like that at all. It's very un-Hollywood and dependent on so many things. I know that when we were making our case for the pardon, for instance, we had to it came down to that I couldn't even take care of my mother because of my own, because of having a child, 2 other kids. Like we had to get someone to vouch that would be too many responsibilities. Isn't that interesting? And it was somebody from like my mother's like senior center. The evidence that the lawyers make you come up with it's difficult. It's not a journey for the faint of heart for administrative paperwork. You have to like paperwork. One of you do. I mean, honestly, one of you have to like paperwork, because I mean, it's insane. And once he got his papers, it did not mean that our income went up higher either. The systems of discrimination and class and control are still there, even with your papers. My husband often says, like, you want to, here, have them back. Honestly, they didn't get me much more than I could have gotten without, prior. So it's always, to me, very interesting how much hatred is put up for what you guys are doing. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like how that hatred has affected you guys, either personally, professionally, any kind of like hate mail, somebody egg your house, anything like that? Have you lost friendships over this as well?
Yeah, I've been actually, I know you're looking for kind of like hurt, the hurt in it. And I actually expected that recently. I had to come out kind of about our situation at work. And I happen to work for a police department, and I'm not a cop, but I do work in a police department. And I, so I was talking to the mayor of my city about doing a proclamation to support our bill. And if that was going to happen, then I was going to maybe be in the news and be named, and all this. And so I had to approach the the rank and or the what is the word, the administration of the police department, and say
Okay.
like, this is who I am and this is my life situation, and it doesn't impact my job, but it could have an impact on the department. And they were so I was bracing myself for like negative,
Right.
like
Right. The anxiety.
please,
Right.
yeah. But it was the exact opposite. I was told,
Right.
you're part of the family, and we're gonna support you. We're gonna like back you up, anything you need. Just it was completely such a surprise, and I was like really thrilled about that at the time.
Right.
I do have family members, not uncles and aunts, stuff like that, but sympathetic to our case. And I'll remind you, my personal case is not resolved. It can't be resolved until a law changes. So we're living together, and undocumented, and unresolved and kind of quote unquote in process.
Oh, wow.
Until we either make a decision to leave the country, or that there's a law that passes. So that's what keeps me kind of motivated and like in it. But I was saying I have this one uncle in particular I'm thinking about, who when he's my mom's brother, when she talks to him about our situation, and he just is very, his attitude is like, well, that's what she chose, and so that consequences of her choices, are what she has to deal with. Basically, like, I'm not gonna like he's choosing not to see the injustice of it, but rather like the law is the law and she has to abide by the law. Like that's as far as his mind can go. So that hurts, and it's hard to be like, I still love my uncle and we still connect on other levels, but it's hard to not forget that that's his attitude about like somebody that I love so dearly, which is my husband and the father of my kid. Like, you can't just erase that from your mind and go on about your life, happy, whatever. So, but I've been really lucky and I think sheltered from a lot of that. Where I live is a very Democratic and blue, area and state, and I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So it's just, I feel insulated a little bit and protected from kind of any type of like heat or pressure, or hate. I've been really lucky.
Jesse, have you been as lucky?
Depends. I choose to keep my circle positive.
Right.
But I have always been a very outspoken person for the underdog, so to speak, my entire life. And I'm not afraid to tell people how it is. I definitely have family members that I have completely stopped talking to. I don't go to family events anymore because I can't stand how bigoted they can be, well, I'm going to pay this person cash under the table because then I don't have to pay taxes for their income, but then turn around and tell me that immigrants shouldn't be coming to this country and getting low wages. You can't have your
that's Wisconsin for you, though. I mean, it's two ways, and it's still no way. It's not no way. It's still two ways. Right?
It's not just Wisconsin. It's that's an issue in a lot of places.
Right.
So for me, I mean, I've definitely dealt with my fair share, but I'm not afraid to speak up towards it either. Believe me, I've walked out of family events after telling one of my uncles off. That's okay with me. When we do our media bombs and we go out to news stories and we just blow up the comments with mixed status families, man, some of the hate that people have in them with their comments back, you're just like, how can you feel good inside of you saying the things that you're saying right now? So, I mean, I've definitely dealt with it personally and both in the advocacy side of it. I choose, though, to keep my network with people who are positive and who are trying to make a difference. The ones who don't want to see it are never going to see it.
Yeah.
And it just to me, they don't matter. That they aren't ever going to be open to the fact that, you know, immigrants aren't aliens. They're humans. They bleed just like you and I do. They have hearts just like you and I do. They come here to work, to make a living and a future for their families.
Right.
So, I mean, I've been dealing with immigration for 20 years. And
why 20 years though?
So my first husband was actually on TPS from Honduras.
Okay.
So I actually legalized him. And then, well, I didn't legalize him, but I was married to him when he finalized his process. My son's father is from Guatemala, and he was actually detained. So I helped him with his cancellation of removal.
Okay.
I have sponsored 3 of my friends' husbands. So I've actually signed the paperwork to co-sponsor their immigrant visas. And I also I sponsor my husband's 2 kids from Mexico. We brought them up here 3.5 years ago. So when I say, you know, I'm a mixed status family, I'm not just a mixed status family. I might be white. My husband says, you're white, but inside you are puro Latina, because I've seen it. I've dealt with it. I've been to Honduras. I've been to Guatemala. I've seen police officers do raids and pull AK-47s in my family's face and literally take 5 young men out of a dance that we were at. And when we later found out why, it was literally for ransom. And the police department did that. You know, I've seen poverty where homes are built out of cardboard in the dumpsters in Guatemala. You know, I've seen why immigrants come here. I've seen the corruption. So, you know, as far as have I dealt with the hate here, I have. But what I've seen other places and what I know and what I've experienced makes me understand that my whiteness needs to be the voices for those that don't have a voice.
Right.
So
and that is so powerful that you're saying, you know, you're using your voice to center what other people can't say or be at. And that's so beautiful, Jessica. And people don't know, Jessica, you gotta meet this woman. This woman will feed you. She will also give you recipes and tell you where to go if you need some clothing. I've seen you were in The Biggest Loser of you know, inside for Princeton Club for a while there. I was like, what is this woman not doing? She is like totally everywhere doing all kinds of things. And I love what you just said. You know, I know why immigrants come here. You know, because of poverty and because of crime and how corrupt and like, you know, and part of that is because of the colonization of the United States too, right? Like Diaz said, you know, so sad that we are so close, so far away from God, yet so close to the United States. One of my favorite quotes, because I feel that what we're putting in the bottom here on the ticker for people to see is Jessie Alcorn is also a co-leader of the Facebook Mixed Status Families United. Tell us a couple of activities that you guys have done. You guys came off of the pandemic. You're like, you know what? This is just us. We're grassroots. I was like, you really rooted. Okay, tell us.
We are. We're literally grassroots. Everything's on Facebook. Basically, what we do is we help mixed status families raise their voices and how they want to raise them. We give them the ideas of what's affecting our families, and then they run with it. So, like the last 2 weeks, the advanced child tax credit came out, but mixed status families found out on the 15th that we again were left out. We're not left out in the writing, but we didn't get our deposits. So we immediately started calling the IRS, our congressional leaders, to figure out why.
Right.
And it took being on hold with the IRS for 2 hours. It took calling congressional leaders in every one of the states in the United States. It took all the way to getting to the media to finally find out today from a media source that the IRS responded to that they knew that mixed status families didn't get the deposits because of a glitch in their system, but that we're expected to get the August deposit. So it's us raising our voice.
Punishing citizens, the citizens that are part of this union, like before with the with the relief checks, you guys were, oh my gosh, you were blowing up, Jesse, in that time. You guys were blowing up. I was like, I've never seen so many people mobilize in such quickness.
We did. We had 15,000 people mobilize in a matter of 3 months. So that takes me to like what we're doing now. So American Families United Act. So a lot of the mixed status family spouses face these bars.
Right.
A lot of our families, we took a poll the other day, and out of all of them that answered, it was like overwhelming. We need American Families United Act to pass because their spouses are facing permanent bars. They've either come across more than once or they stated citizenship when they got to the border. And some of these otherwise would be eligible for DACA. You got to remember, my child is 20 years old. She went to school with DACA recipients. Well, when their parents brought them across the border, if they claim citizenship, that automatically denies that child a step to citizenship. To even be a citizen because their parents lied. We actually have a family. We have a family right now in mixed status families who is married to a U.S. citizen, is a DACA recipient, but because DACA doesn't have a process to legalization, they went and used the spousal to get legalized. She had her appointment in Juarez, got to Juarez, and she had no clue that her parents brought her here when she was 2, took her back, brought her back when she was 7, and when she went to her interview, because she crossed twice, she now is barred. Even though she was a DACA recipient and married to a U.S. citizen, that is why we need American Families HR 2920, because the children who are the dreamers.
Oh my God.
The spouses.
I wish she had known that they would have. So she's telling them the truth. She's telling them the truth.
Yep.
No, girl, you gotta lie.
But
no, sorry. But I'm sorry for saying it that casually because you're so scared. I mean, these are feds. You're so freaking scared to lie. I shouldn't say that. It's very stupid of me to say that because I've never been to Juarez, but I know Juarez is the capital of femicide. Okay, so I was scared. Oh my gosh, I was scared shitless the 5 days he was there. He said he could hear gunshots the first day.
Yeah.
The old mujeres like adopted him, my husband, waiting for that UPS freaking perdón. But you're sweating. You're sweating. Yeah. You are sweating for days in Juarez. And you're like, of all cities, here?
Yeah.
And that's all you got to think is that it had to be here. Just happens to be the worst place in Mexico, like the worst place that you could have anything happen to you is going to happen there. This is not Cabos, my friend. This is real. It's real. It's a country within a country, really. Juarez is a country. They say the border of Mexico is like in of itself a country within a country because it's like this other third place that is created in the Rio. Oh my gosh, I cannot only imagine what you know going through that is like with this family that you're talking about, and like all because she crossed when she was like 2 and then 5, and back in those days they could just do that as if it was going to the mall. I mean, it was just very easy to lie and be very nonchalant. I mean, I passed my idea pretending she was my mother and like on several occasions, and I was very young, and so. That too, so being the mule as a child and you're coaxed to doing this type of stuff, that in of itself can get you barred, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
It could have been.
Well, and two, it can be, there's a lot of instances that our families could be barred. But like Kelly said, the 2 biggest ones are claim to citizenship and multiple entries. And when you come into the mixed status families group, you find that is the majority of mixed status family spouses is that they've either had a claim to citizenship or they've crossed multiple times. And some of them they've come across, pre 9/11. We all know pre 9/11 getting across the border was so much easier. You could just walk right across. You didn't even have to have a lot of times didn't even have to show your passport.
No, just a driver's license for because you're on vacay.
Exactly. And, so for some of the people who have been here for over 20 years, they have no chance. Even marrying a U.S. citizen, that whole you marry a U.S. citizen and get your papers is just not true.
Right.
So what Mixed Status Families is doing now is we are hitting the ground hard. We are helping American Families United campaign to our congressional leaders, to our senators.
What's the name of that law again that you guys are trying to pass?
Callie's muted. It's American Families United.
Sorry, Callie. Go ahead.
I think she has herself muted. There you go, Callie.
My sound became really, really bad. So I don't know what's going on. I'm like trying to change rooms and stuff, but it's the American Families United Act, and it's HR 2920. So if if you're used to going on Congress.gov and like doing a search bar, HR 2920, you can see the bill text. It's short. It's very narrow and focused bill. It's not like trying to cover all types of every situation. That is not what we're about. We're just trying to really be focused on this particular issue. And you can also see, what all the action, and there hasn't been much action, but you can follow along the progress and see who's co-sponsoring it and all that stuff at congress.gov. And it's also all documented on our website.
Thank you, Kelly. I can't express it enough to call your local government, your state representative, sorry, not your local government, your state representatives to support the American Families Act, HR 2920.
The other thing, that we really need is we need local organizations. The Latino Chamber of Commerce, our Madison city mayor. I've even emailed our lieutenant governor and Governor Evers to support this bill because it would help so many of Wisconsin's families. So it's not just our congressional and our senators, which we need them to do it too. But the more support we're getting from our community organizations, from our local officials, then we can show our congressmen that our local areas are supporting this as well. And that helps them support and co-sponsor as well. If we can get our congressional officers and our senators to say, yep, we're going to champion this, great. But right now, they're really looking for more support before they decide to co-sponsor. Is what I'm experiencing. So that's what we're mobilizing mixed status families and our allies to do right now, is to email and call congressional and senate offices, email and call your local elected officials and your local businesses. Our egg industry, how many of our families work in the dairy industry here, and how many of us are U.S. citizens and we're the ones buying your milk and your cheese. Yeah. We want you to support this bill because this affects you. Yeah. Our restaurants, my husband's worked in restaurants. He's worked in many restaurants.
The construction industry, professional, there's so many people who are working in education and support services for the elderly and disabled that our hospitality, all those industries depend on our labor. And by supporting this act, it's not like we're giving a pardon. You're giving a pardon to things that for very strenuous circumstances that are often what's within our control. It's after we're like old enough to know whether or not we want to cross a border and can stop it, right? As children, we can't always do that. You have to, it's different. It's a very difficult and different life to explain to people who haven't grown up in a mixed status situation already. When it's just hard, people are like, well, you had your own, you have a free will. How can they, you're perpetuating this international crime. Did you know that? Yeah, I kind of did. What could I have done? Right? What could I really have done? What you're acting as if like my family is unreasonable and has never shown me love and they have never shown me care. They actually have. And these are the people who fed and clothe you. And it becomes much more like a microcosm of another reality within reality. And so we just lost her. Oh no.
I know her connection was just not good.
Okay. Well, I put down on our chat, the bill and so forth. We talked about the emotional stress and now the legal stress. We want you guys and need y'all to, call your local officials, call your organizations, and make a push for the HR 2920 bill.
Yep.
And just get encourage people. We have websites here to help you. We got the American Families United website. We have the Facebook group as well that Jesse is part of. I see some people who have been watching this the whole time. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you.
Who've been part of this conversation. I hope that this was fruitful for you to indulge in, and perhaps you are part of a mixed status family yourself. And I hope that you take the time to learn about that more and talk about that. Find your voice within it. Don't be afraid. Talk to people like Jesse. Go into a Facebook group. Maybe start your own Facebook group. Don't be afraid. You're not alone. I understand during that time, especially pre the pardon time. So don't talk about anything. Don't say this, that, yet. You are counseled heavily on what to say and what not to say. But if you're past that and you're dealing with now the time period for naturalization, talk to Jesse and folks like us. Find your friends, because now you can say something. Now we can say a little bit more, and we can push Congress to do more, because you remember how hard it was. And I always say you got to reach back while we're reaching forward. And with that, now all of a sudden people got online, and we've been on this for an hour, and all of a sudden we get more people watching us. Thank you so very much. Callie, she did. Oh, Callie. Oh, sorry, Callie. Said it's Callie. My phone did not like the link. That's all right.
That's okay.
That's okay.
What I can say, I just want to add real quick, so that other people understand what American Families United Act can do.
Yes.
So the waivers that the HR 2920 takes care of is the IRA that was put into place in 1996. That's how long it's been since this law has been on the books. And the statistics show that IRA, these bans are not effective. They're not effective for our economy. They're tearing U.S. citizen families apart. They're traumatizing our children by separating their parents. And the biggest thing people need to understand is that 1996 was a long time ago. That was 25 years ago. Our economy's changed. Our world has changed. Immigration has changed.
Absolutely.
And it's time for us to speak up. And every single person who's affected by an immigrant, whether you're a mixed status family, mixed status families, we're dreamers. We have DACA families. I told you the story of one. We have TPS holders. Again, if they went back for any reason and came back and they lost that TPS status, now they're barred. We have migrant farmers. One of the admins in the mixed status family, her husband is a farmer, and he has no pathway to citizenship right now because he has multiple entries. Mixed status families is every single part of the immigration process. We have people who came here on student visas and overstayed their student visas. We have spouses who came here on tourist visas and they overstayed their tourist visas. So when people say, do it the right way, a lot of our families did do it the right way.
Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh.
Because of IRA that was put into place. And by the way, it was a bargaining tool. It wasn't even up for vote. It was thrown in as a bargaining tool in 1996. And our families are suffering because of it. Yeah. So we need every person who cares about immigrants to get on board and help us get American Families United Act, HR 2920, passed into reconciliation. August, all of our congressional leaders and our senators are on recess. They're in their home states. They're in their offices. And we are going to hit it hard starting August 1st. We are going to let every single one of them know what American Families United Act is. So for those that want to help out, like Araceli, thank you so much for inviting us here tonight so that we could get this information out to your platform.
Yes, absolutely. Like,
is join the Mixed Status Families United page, because that's where we're organizing daily. We're mobilizing daily there. And then the American Families United page, they have a Facebook page, but then they also have their website, and their website actually has everything. If you want to know anything about the American Families United Act, what they've done, their Take Action Tuesdays, all of that, they have that on their webpage. So yeah, I'm super excited. I'm really super excited to get this mobilized, because right now U.S. citizens are being completely left out of the immigration discussion, completely.
we really are. We really are in this recovery time. It's like, yeah, you guys have had, I mean, when the stimulus money, I mean, you guys really fought for it. I'm
Yep.
putting in the comments there for everyone to see is like the poll results too of like a poll that American Families United did regarding how they strongly support, once that people were understood what the Families Act was.
Yep.
You know, they did a poll, and most of the people wanted. Okay, most of the people wanted it,
and it's supported on a bipartisan level. It's Democrats and Republicans, and that's the other thing is we're also very we're very bipartisan, nonpartisan in our group, because immigration isn't a Democratic issue. It's not a Republican issue. It is an everybody issue.
Yes.
We need everybody to come to the plate for us. It doesn't matter how you vote on a personal level when you're advocating for changes, because it takes everybody to come to the table and have these crucial discussions, because families in all areas of this country are being affected, in Republican, independent, Democratic, purple states, blue states, red states. It doesn't matter where you come from. There's mixed status families and there's immigrant families in every single one of them. And we stay very nonpartisan for that reason.
So good. That is such good work that you're doing. I love that it's a family issue. It's not a partisan issue. It's a family's issue. Yep. It's a family, and it comes with a lot of economic impact too for those families who have to be separated just because of like this really dumb law that we have. Yep. It's just not right. It's just not right. Thank you so much, Jessie. And thank you, Callie. Callie says, Jessie, you are amazing. Love how you rep our families well. We are so grateful. People can write letters to the editors in support. Call your legislative offices, both local and in DC. Ask them to support HR 2920 and follow the Families United on Facebook, Insta, and Twitter. Callie said, yes, there you are. There you are. Yeah, you go. Thank you, Callie, so much. And thank you, Jessie, so much.
Thank you.
Gracias para ti y tu familia. Dice, ¿cuántos tamales no has hecho para esta organización y para muchas organizaciones? Y has tratado muchas maneras de cómo ganar nuestra atención. And I have so mucho respeto para el trabajo que tú haces, amiga. Mucho respeto.
Gracias. Gracias, Arcelia.
Adiós. Nos vemos. Bye bye.